Today's show is brought to you by Fully Involved Lawn and Outdoor Services. If you're in the greater New Orleans area and need some TLC for your home's appearance, Fully Involved is who you need to call. They provide excellent lawn care services for your outdoor needs. Their professional staff is always committed to making sure your lawn is cut and maintained to the highest standards. From grass cutting to pruning, Fully Involved offers a variety of services to keep your lawn looking its best. Contact them today to start the process of having a healthy and well-maintained lawn. You can reach Fully Involved via phone number at 504-758-4200 or via their website, fullyinvolvedlawnoutdoorservices.com. Scroll down to schedule your personalized service. You can also find Fully Involved on Facebook.
Also note, Fully Involved does landscaping and pressure washing of sidewalks, driveways, and houses.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick, and this is an important announcement. This podcast contains explicit material that isn't recommended for young audiences, such as language and depictions of graphic nature, so listener discretion is going to be advised. Keep in mind that the views and opinions of this podcast are that of the host and do not reflect the views of the guests, affiliates, or sponsors of the show in any way, shape, or form. Also, please remember that the individuals mentioned on this show, regardless of involvement, are to be considered innocent until proven guilty in court. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's start the show.
That was the chair.
I heard. And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sound of Sirens podcast. As always, I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick.
I'm Brian Miller.
And today is a very special day for the Sound of Sirens podcast. We have a first in-studio guest, very good friend of mine, like a brother. And to be honest, there would be no Sound of Sirens podcast or Inside the Thin Line podcast. Whatever podcast I've had is because of this man directly. I want everybody to give it up, Mr. Scott, a.k.a. Trey from the Hangover Podcast.
Hey,
how you doing, bro?
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Give you
Oh, you do have one.
Let me give you a round.
Oh, that was very nice of you to say. That is a lot of credit for a man that just makes dick jokes every weekend.
Oh, and shit happens.
And here we go.
Yeah. Today's a little bit different. We're doing a prolific, unsolved murder type deal instead of our normal cover the cases, talk to the people, have interviews and all that. But we are going to have an interview. The man is very knowledgeable on true crime. He said that eventually he wanted to graduate to a true crime podcast.
Yeah, I've always said my podcast is just a comedy podcast that wanted to be a true crime podcast when it grew up.
And it has potential. It has potential. I've been a guest on the Hangover Podcast a few times. It's incredible the stuff that they do. It's funny as hell. If y'all really want a good laugh, every Monday morning I use it on my way to work. Sometimes when I get to work because the episodes are a little long, but I love it. Can't get enough of it. Y'all can find them on all major streaming services at the Hangover Podcast. You have your own website. You want to plug it?
We do. It's www.thehangoverpod.com.
Check them out, man.
And if you want to talk shit, we got a little red microphone in the corner. If you go on the website, you can click that and leave us a voicemail. Make fun of my co-hosts.
Absolutely.
Tell me I'm pretty, however you want to go about it. Brian, you're not going to drink with us?
Wasn't asked.
I mean, if you would like.
No. What is it?
That is whipped vodka and...
Like I said, I wasn't asked. I mean, I don't know how good of this true crime podcast we'd have if y'all gave a diabetic alcohol.
Hey.
My bad.
It could be one hell of a true crime podcast.
Well, the cool thing is Scott was at one point an EMT, so he has some of the knowledge of the first responder.
I had an EMT job up until I couldn't actually find a job, and then so I had the training, and I just could do nothing with it because no one would hire me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Thank Acadia.
I know what that's like.
Thank Acadia.
Training and knowledge and not.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You did work for Acadia?
No.
Oh, they
wouldn't hire me either.
I think they gave him you got the training through Acadian, right?
Yeah, I went to NIMSA through them, and then once I graduated, I was the first person in my class to complete everything, pass with flying colors, and then next thing you know, I'm texting classmates so what do we do now? And they were like, oh, well, my interview's next week, and I'm like, wait. Well, what about me?
Okay.
Yeah, they're getting interviews and going to the training and everything else, and I'm just like, I haven't heard anything from anybody. And then I ended up getting an email.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I ended up getting an email, and they were just like, yeah, we decided not to move forward with you. And I was like, okay.
All right.
Awesome. And then like all the other places that I went to, they either needed more training than what I already had, like certificates and everything else, and then or other places just weren't hiring. So next thing you know, one of my other classmates is texting me and they're just like, you should not let your license lapse. And I was like, no, you're right, I should probably get on that. And then I didn't. And now it's like, yeah, so if you want to do this again, you got to just go through the training all over again. Fuck it.
No, not worth it. Well,
Okay,
before
that stopped me from asking my next question. Moving along.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, I do want to thank our sponsors, So Crafty, our official merchandising sponsor. If you need anything from cups, bumper stickers, koozies, anything like that with our logo on it, send us an email, sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com. Let us know what you want. We'll get it for you and expedite that process. Also, like we said last episode, we have extended fully involved lawn care and services for the month due to our holiday hiatus. So thank you to Jared and Fully Involved for everything that they do. If you want a quote on your lawn care, pressure washing, anything like that, I promise you he will be competitive. It is a free estimate anywhere in the New Orleans metro area. Give him a call. His pre-roll is before the show. Also, we want to thank LeBron's Creole Cuisine in Westwego, Louisiana, for their love in every bite. That food is delicious. I plan on going back very soon. And thank you to everybody who responded to our post when we posted they needed business. They were considering shutting down. They have been slam-packed since we made that post, as well as everybody else.
Them and I know...
it's been great.
That's cool.
I'm going to give a little plug to a restaurant.
I think you're going to need to move the mic just a little bit closer. It feels like I can barely hear him.
The Chicken Kitchen also...
Yes. Chicken's Kitchen.
That they were going to do something with LeBron's, and it just packed the house.
It's actually my boy Marlon. I went to high school with him. He's great for him. I mean, Chef Myron, Chef Shorty, they do their thing, and it's unfortunate that they had to go through the struggle to get to where they're at now, but I think that they're going to flourish, and you cannot beat their food. Their food is delicious. So with that being said, we do have top fans. One happens to be in the building right now. Give it up for Scott, a.k.a. Trey.
This is a weird turn of events.
Also, we have my wifey, Miss Kayla.
Man, look at her. Suck up.
And last but not least, our last case that we're working on, Kylie Hartman, her mother, Daisha Hartman, Brazil. She is our last top fan. Thank you, Daisha. We have not forgotten about you, by the way, Daisha. When you listen to this, I'm just waiting on your friend to email me back so we can get that rolling again. And like I said last episode, we do plan on coming to Shreveport here very soon. Getting to meet y'all, getting to get a little bit involved in the case on a more in-depth way, I guess is the appropriate way to say. But thank you again for all of y'all support. And with that, so we wanted to start off just first and foremost, when we were doing our live last week, Jean-Benet Ramsey come up. So we can start
the
there.
Ultimate, man. The ultimate.
We can start there. For those who don't know the specifics of the case, Scott, you want to walk us through?
I mean, it's the big one. It's the one that everybody's debated for years to come. And I mean, like, just I think it was Christmas that 3-year-old. I can't remember how old she was.
She's very young.
Yeah,
I know her brother
beauty
was
queen.
9.
Yeah, little beauty queen found dead in her wine, or was the basement of the wine cellar? Yeah, sorry, it's been a while since I read up on the case, but yeah, like family members, a random pedo, a lot of people trying to take credit for like who killed her. Yeah,
weird.
A lot of because a lot of people trying to be the one to take credit for who killed her, and a lot of law enforcement. Not necessarily, would misconduct be the right word in terms of the crime scene? Like, just
I think it's just carelessness.
Complete negligence.
Just not really caring about what you preserve.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is we're finding that in the cases we're working now. Like, the police have such shoddy work lately. And, I mean, this goes back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with all that. But
yeah, that one was really crazy. Just looking into, like, the way that first the police let the parents leave to like go do stuff, like just let them leave. And then the whole like they called the victims advocates to come over to the house, and this isn't in any way talking like poorly about women, but it's like, all the women get together and it's like, let's clean. We're gonna take that off your plate for you. We're gonna clean up the house and like make everything. Right, and it's like you're wiping down a crime scene, basically. Right. They found the ransom note. It is the longest ransom note in any child case in history.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, and it was written on stationery from inside the house.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, and then they did a couple of handwriting tests and comparisons and stuff like that, and the mom's handwriting came very close to like a lot of and a lot of little like colloquialisms that she would say. I could never say that word correctly. Yeah. Colloquialisms?
Something like that.
I'm trying to sound smart. Like specific ones that she would say that like aren't just common vernacular were like popping up in the ransom note. So that's led a lot of people to believe that the mom was involved. Right. I think the one that personally that I've come to is I think it was an accident. I think the brother might have killed the daughter, and the parents tried to cover it up. That's more what I've leaned into.
Okay, so that's your theory.
Yes.
And what brought you to that?
Well, because honestly, it didn't make sense for the parents to kill her, because, I mean, like she was however old and was already winning so many beauty pageants, and like the potential for, like she clearly was going to have a Xanax addiction by the time she was 19, like a couple of DUIs under her belt, like she was headed for like horribleness, but I think she would have made her parents a lot of money.
I kind of was on the spectrum of, I did.
We know you're on the spectrum.
Yeah, a little bit. I was kind of thinking more, maybe the mom, because the mom lived kind of vicariously through her. Pushed for the success with the pageantry and everything like that. I was thinking, but the only thing that threw me off from that theory is that she was winning.
Yeah.
Had she been losing, maybe the mom would have took it out on her a little bit.
Maybe.
She was living vicariously through her. She was enjoying the wins, all excited. And then that's what kind of threw me off. Initially I thought the mom. The brother was, I think, but the sexual assault.
I've heard that.
It was confirmed. I did read that there was sexual assault involved, and a 9-year-old. I'm not saying a 9-year-old is incapable of knowing, because I mean we all know what 9-year-olds nowadays are capable of, and they know, unfortunately. But do we think that the 9-year-old was capable of that?
When you say sexual assault, here would be my question. Are we talking...
I think penetration was...
Of his anatomy or of an item?
I think there was an item.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there was... I don't know if they ruled out that there was another person penetrating.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right. Because they did. I don't think that they did much DNA sampling.
Yeah.
And sticking with the brother, how much older than her is
So
he?
the brother was 9. Jean-Benet was slightly younger. I want to say 3 or 4.
She was in the 3 or 4 range, right?
So that would put like a 5-year age gap, 6-year age gap.
Did they say that the brother?
She was 6.
I'm gonna be.
Oh, okay.
She was
well,
6.
then it was like a 3-year age
Yeah.
gap.
Okay. I'm gonna be the, if you want to call it the devil's advocate here. I'll wait
Let's do
when
this.
y'all say the stuff, and I'll shoot like questions to make you think.
That works.
So,
well, just to preface this, I explained to Scott beforehand. You used to work with the sheriff's office. You have.
I'm an armchair detective.
Yeah.
Clearly, we have two
and I'm
very
not-
different
listen,
experiences.
He got his badge from Temu.
Yeah.
and that's okay. I'm not. I don't want to make it sound like I'm some expert
But-
detective.
You're more than I am.
But my question to you is this: on the little brother, since y'all been, I know the case. I remember it
Right.
from when it happened. But obviously, y'all have delved and dug and paid attention.
A little.
Does the brother have any type of disorder? Like, is he aggressive? Is he ADHD? Does he have any?
He did an interview a few years ago, and
to my knowledge, I don't think he was.
The reason
he seemed off, but like maybe he's just weird.
But
like,
I think maybe the events put him
could have
there.
yes.
I don't think that prior to the murder he was on any kind
But
of
a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. This is why I asked that, because I'm kind of like you in this, the believing of the brother,
Right.
because of jealousy. All the
That's a big one.
attention is good. And most, at that young age,
Yeah.
of course, when we get, I mean, my brother's 10 years older than me. So I'm sure as a kid, him as a kid, me as an infant, and then me starting to grow up, there was some jealousy. Now today, at 66 and 56, you know, it's my brother. I love him and we get along. We're grown men. But could this have gotten that kid... All the attention is there.
To add to that,
I want to play soccer, but I got to go to this beauty
Right.
pageant. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to say that Jean-Benet was the mom's only child biologically. I think the rest of the kids were from the dad from a previous relationship.
That I'm not sure of either.
I remember reading something like that. I could be wrong, y'all. I might be butchering.
I think you might be. I think they're both her kids.
Was it
I don't
because
remember.
I think a beauty pageant person too?
Yes.
She was.
Right.
Yeah.
She was. And I want to say there was 4 kids total between the two of them, or 5.
Fuck, I don't remember. I know the dad. Another one of the dad. The marriage ended not too much after the death. And he went and had another family, had more kids. One of those kids died.
So that may have... Okay, so at the time, it may have just been them two, and then he had kids.
How'd that child die?
Car accident. I already thought about it.
Severe car accident,
I mean, just like I said, you saying it. Oh, wait a minute. Now we get.
I was gonna say, do I need to be the one to say it here?
You know, I had a friend when I was living in Indiana, and he lost 3 of his children to tragic car accident. Matter of fact, 2 of them were car accident, and one was something different. But a parent don't bury their children.
Right.
Once.
Yeah.
Now you're talking, this man has done it twice.
Yeah. The one of the other things that I remember kind of threw me off is that's one of those, like, it's not impossible, it's just improbable.
Yeah.
Whenever they apparently were looking through the house, they found like a bowl with like a fork in it, and it had pineapple chunks in it or something like that. And then when they did the autopsy, they found chunks of pineapple in Jean-Benet's stomach, which would obviously show that she was eating that before she was killed.
Right. They also had the intruder theory.
A lot. They had a lot of intruder theories.
Like one of them in particular.
Some kind of crazed Santa Claus. Like.
Yeah, that was the one.
It was a big one.
Like he was dressed up as Santa Claus, came into the house, kind of gained their trust or whatnot.
Yeah, he wasn't like, it's not too far off to think of it like he was a pretty good suspect.
Yeah.
To me, I just cannot get over, and like so many people try to write it off, I can't get over the handwriting samples.
Yeah.
And like they did what I was speaking about earlier with the colloquialisms. She said like during like a TV interview, she was like, or like a letter she wrote to somebody, she was like, or no, it was the Christmas cards that they sent out the year before. She was like, God is our little, Jesus is our little angel, and hence we now have Christmas and blah blah blah. And then in the ransom note, it had something, and hence this is what, and it's like, people don't normally say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something that's in everyday vernacular. There was that. It was somebody said, I don't know how much truth there is to this because it's one man's word versus another, but apparently, I think the detective or something, somebody that was there wanted to distract the father and was like, come on, let's go take a walk. Like, let's search the house together. Let's look around. And according to him, when they got, like, apparently he chose to go downstairs first. And again, according to him, he opened the door to the basement and almost started crying before the door was even fully open and started screaming like, my baby, like type shit. Runs over, grabs her, rips the duct tape off of her mouth, I've never been a cop a day in my life, Brian, and I know you don't let them touch the body. Like, it's come on. And then apparently they took the body from the basement, brought it upstairs, laid her on the counter. the mom held her for like an hour and a half or something like that. It's like, come on, man.
Let's go back to what you're saying. They reported her missing. That's why the police were originally there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they didn't know.
They thought it was a kidnapping, yes.
They didn't know that she was actually down there.
Correct.
So when they go down, this is when it happens.
Correct.
And I agree with you. But, man, I'm going to tell you, having been a policeman and been involved in cases where it's an infant or a child.
Right.
Your emotions are so...
Yeah.
Even as that's not my child.
Right. It's still a kid.
Right. And then it does make you flash back to that
could have been my kid, yeah.
So to say he should have, yes. I mean, we have a crime scene.
Of course. Yeah, right. But we're still people at the end of the day.
Right. And then maybe he was thinking like we sitting here saying, how do I stop it?
Right.
You know,
yeah. Because now that you're saying it like that, it's like, right. Yeah, could I imagine like one of my friends finding their kid dead and me just being like, no, you can't touch the body. This is a crime scene. Like,
and then put yourself in daddy's shoes.
You're not stopping me.
You better go ahead upstairs, get the SWAT team, the National Guard, a couple of tanks.
Come get me the fuck out of here.
Because he might have had, talking about this, and you being a big true crime guy, I'm sure you watch a lot of things on television.
Ridiculous amount.
And I do too. So how many times have you seen like Dateline and they talking about something and the reporter says, well, he didn't cry when you was interviewing. What did that make you think? Well, that made me suspicious. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like,
everyone reacts differently.
Everybody reacts differently.
So if that detective is walking down the thing with him, the daddy, he's thinking, he could have been thinking, he's legitimately acting like a father should and would.
Yeah.
He could have instinctually felt like, all right, when I open this door, she's going to be there, and prepped himself.
Yeah, that's true too.
Could have.
To be like, okay, she's going to be down here. It's not going to be good.
Try to prepare
myself. The only reason I disagree is because in this moment, like, you're a parent.
Yeah.
Are you a parent? Yes. Mm-hmm. So if somebody tells you that your kid's missing, your brain's not going to go, they're dead.
No, not immediately. Right. No.
That's where my brain is right now.
You kind of like cling to hope.
Yeah, so that's why I don't buy that, is because it's like in my head, like there's people that we know now that it's like their kid died or somebody that they love died, and it's like, well, or not even died. It's just like they've been gone for 10 years, and it's like they're dead, and it's like no, they're out there somewhere. Right. Come on.
There's always
that hope
until they find.
That goes back to like I said with the shit even 9 months down the road, like with the case we did in Mobile with Daniela. Her family still, would believe if she hadn't been
Let me
found,
say that's not to mean that if you do have somebody that's missing that they're automatically dead.
Right.
Let me be clear.
Yeah, no, I mean, and then we got the case of Kylie in Shreveport where she's been gone years.
Yeah.
And I think Daisha, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, email. And we're going to have you back on at some point, but you said when we interviewed you, it's not that you give up hope, it's just more or less you start thinking logically. Yeah. And you start...
Our life has to go on.
Ruling things out that you would normally kind of overlook is like, nah, that didn't happen to her. And then you start thinking about it, and then it's like, well, fuck, it's kind of a possibility.
Right.
You almost start to come to grips with, logically, this is probably the avenue it went, versus, nah, fuck.
Well, that's why I have a problem with that theory, only because it's like, this is the first couple of hours. Like, and my kid, there's nothing wrong with my kid. I'm going to pay the ransom and get my kid back.
Yeah, my train of thought would probably be, not to cut you off, but it'd probably be like, man, what the fuck are we doing here? Let's go look.
Right.
Where is she?
And that's my question back to you when you researched this and you said the detective wanted to get him away and kind of talk. It's not like they were going to look for the little girl in the house. He was just trying to, let me separate. Let's get over here.
Well, from the story that I was told was that he did more or less just like, let's search the house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Have we searched the entire house? Let's search the whole house. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So there was that.
And the reason I'm saying that is I'm trying to put myself in the policeman mode, okay? So my intention is we got so much tension right
We
now.
need to distract him.
Let's separate them.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk. Hey, you know what? I don't think we searched upstairs.
Yeah,
We didn't search
right.
downstairs. But man, what kind of things do you think if she ran away? What would
Right.
she
I mean,
take?
you almost have to
Right,
discredit an abduction versus
right.
a runaway versus a hiding.
Right.
I'm throwing this out. We're going down the steps, and by mere whatever, bam, she's there.
And let's say even you, as the police officer, you're like, oh shit, didn't expect that.
Right. I'm trying to make this dude like think out the box, and and then afterwards, probably after that initial shock, that policeman probably said, "Wow, we got a crime scene."
Yeah.
Listen, leave her.
Yeah.
Even though we know, being in the industry of fire and/or police, it takes the coroner's office to come out and
Hours
make
too.
the
I mean,
pronunciation.
sometimes the body's laying there for God
we
knows
know
how long.
Right.
there is no hope here. We know. So now he probably went back to that training and experience of don't touch.
Right.
Don't go downstairs and do anything.
Yeah, just leave it.
We gotta look.
Yeah.
And what year was this?
95?
I think
Okay,
that's right.
so-
I think that's right. That was accurate.
96.
So 96, I would venture to tell you they had cases with DNA, but it was probably still in its infancy and so to speak. Like, we didn't use it like today.
I was about to say, wasn't OJ like one of the first trials to
That's
use
what
like
I'm saying.
DNA?
Yeah.
So
that was the
like
whole glove don't
today,
fit,
it's
must
almost like
quit.
every case we looking for some kind of fluid, some kind of footstep, footprint, handprint.
And to my knowledge, from everything that I've read, they had a company willing to take the DNA, test it, and for whatever reason, it was never done. So DNA testing, to my knowledge, has never been done on this case. Even though there is some present, they haven't tested it.
Now, you
And there's
saying this,
several samples
Oh.
that they can test.
How big of a sample?
Right, that's a big one.
From what everything that I've read said it's substantial enough to where they could probably solve this case in a week.
Well, then they need
And
to
they're
do
just
it.
the company that they wanted to use is not accepting the samples.
Because when I look at like say the Golden State Killer, when they used his DNA sample to find him, they said back in the 70s, if you were to like put it into like a perspective, it was when they had all the samples from all the victims and everything, they had say like a pie, like a full pie, and they said now it's 2000 whatever the fuck. They're like, now we have crumbs left on that pie. So like every like test we do, this has to go somewhere. Otherwise,
and that's the
we're
thing
fucked.
in today's world with DNA. That's the thing that television. The sample is always great. It's always precise, and they solve that crime
Time
in 60
kills
minutes.
all, man.
Okay, it's not even about the killing of the DNA. It's the fact that there's enough for me to test.
Right.
What there's not is enough for me to
Test again.
we test here, and it says it's him. Now we got to test it again to verify it's him.
Right.
But if I test it once, we done.
Right.
That's why he said what he said.
Yeah.
We need to be able, when we put this to the microscope, it needs to say for sure it's this person.
See, I'm glad to know that like there's other people that like really fan out over the true crime shit. Just because like I'm in the car. True story. I'm in the car. I'm driving home from Hammond one day, and I'm listening to a podcast. My Favorite Murder. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. The two comedian ladies. They're great. And as I'm listening to it, they're interviewing the lead detective for the Golden State Killer. And I just remember thinking as I'm driving home that day, I'm like, how fucking crazy would it be if they caught him? Like, how insane would that same day it goes viral? They caught him.
Wow.
Yeah. Like from the 70s to 4 years ago, I think they caught him, and it was
based off of DNA and stuff.
based off of that was the one that caused all the controversy because they used like the Ancestry.com stuff, and they were like, "Whoa, you didn't have my permission." Well, there's no laws,
Right.
So
There's been a lot of stuff about the Zodiac
and vice
that's been coming
versa.
out like that lately.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
I don't
though.
either. I wrote you and was like, is there any truth to this article?
Yeah,
And
I feel like
yeah,
at this
no.
point, like the Zodiac killer is more than likely long gone, and now every person that they find that they're like, it was probably him. He's been dead for 10 years, and it's like, y'all are just trying to find somebody at this point, I think, just to give closure to the case. But it's like you look at like a Jack the Ripper. It's like they're always notorious, and it's like Jack the Ripper killed like 4 people. Yeah. But he's one of the most known because nobody knows who he is.
That, and I think it's the nature of the killings.
Big time.
That brings the prolificacy or whatever, however you say it.
Yeah.
I think that's more like the gruesomeness and the nature of the killing.
Yeah.
Is probably what brings them into that genre.
For sure.
But the general consensus on John Bonet now is we think the brother.
I think it was the brother.
Think about what you just said. How many car accidents are there a
day? Yeah.
But one plane crashes and it's news for weeks.
Because that doesn't happen.
And it's the amount of death at one time.
Well, that's what got me into true crime to begin with. It was like, and I say this about like people that make music. It's like you speak English, I speak English.
Yeah.
But we can't make music like this. Like our brains just don't work the same. And in the same vein, we all have the same brain, yet somehow yours tells you it's a great idea to go kill Korean people on Friday nights. Like that's your thing.
You see, you saying that, I got interested in them, of course, going through my 10 years as a policeman, but for a different reason. Mm-hmm. It used to piss me off.
Yeah.
When the FBI would come in and say, well, we want to catch him so that we can sit him down and figure out, well, I don't give a shit why he did it. The evidence proved he did it.
So you're not a fan of John Douglas, the Mindhunter?
No, because I don't care. You can sit here and tell me, well, Brian, I killed those 30 people because they all had on black shoes. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
You killed them.
Yeah, right.
And as far as I'm concerned, the laws in this country say that if you kill and you're found guilty, you can be killed. Now, where I'm different, I know we jumping,
right.
But where I'm different, like with...
This episode has no theme. Let's just go.
No, we talked about it before. We're like, well, what are we going to talk about? And it was everything.
We actually like this con.
Let's go.
The death penalty, where I'm different than most people, I'm for it.
Mm-hmm.
When you found guilty, I do believe you under the Constitution, I am in belief that you should be able to appeal it. But once every court says, nope, you did it, I personally
we have nothing else to talk about.
That's right.
I
personally think
you
should be killed how you killed.
Oof.
That's just me.
We disagree in 2 ways. Number one, we disagree on you should be killed how you killed. I think you should be tossed off of a building. Because some of these people, you shot somebody in the face, and it's like, now while that's all good and fun, I want you to be afraid before you die.
And it happens a little quicker.
Yeah.
Let me expand on my thing. When I say we're gonna kill you like you killed, you're just not gonna know when it's coming. Just like your victim. Your victim didn't wake up that day and go, hey, I'm about to go out here.
That's like the death sentence in Japan. They don't let you know that you're about to die until the day before.
I don't even want you to know that.
So think of that. Because these murderers, thugs, they the baddest individual while they're doing their thing.
Oh, of course.
And then when you got them, they're some of the biggest cowards that are out there.
Well, and that you can expand on that too. Some people that murder have nothing to do with what's actually happening.
Correct.
I mean, look at our friend.
Yeah.
They come out of left field, had nothing to do with what was going on, and take it upon themselves to do something stupid.
Yeah. But I disagree with you on the other thing only because...
What other thing? This thing or that thing?
About the...
appellate court?
No. Okay. About how you're like, you did it, I don't care why you did it, you need to die.
Oh, okay.
That is where I do fall in with John Douglas because I remember specifically the Ted Bundy case when they went to the FBI profilers. They were able to, I don't know how, but I remember we read the report and it was like they were able to like profile him down to the color of his car.
Oh yeah.
And like what kind of car he probably drove and like so I do agree with they need to die. you got to go. But first, let's get every drop of it. What goes on in your crazy deluded fucking head? Like let's see what you got going on up there just so we can get every drop of juice of information we can out of you.
Yeah.
And then toss you off the proverbial building.
The profilers, you're right. I give them that.
Yeah.
They are usually to the T. Dot the I.
Scary.
Yes. And so, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It does make you sit back and go, how the hell did they figure out this off of what we had?
Yeah.
I'm just always, and listen, we became friends 5 minutes ago when I come to the door. Just because we're friends, brother, we don't have to.
Oh,
agree.
of course. But
we should be able to do
don't
this.
Care.
We should be able to do just this.
But
I am with you. See, I went to Hong Kong, Bangkok, and Singapore when I was with the sheriff's office.
Wow.
Singapore is like gorgeous.
We'll talk about that after.
Okay. But one of the things I found that was like, I'm like, what? When it came to drugs, possession
I already know
of 28 grams of any controlled substance, their court system is tribunal. It's 3 judges. You sit in front of this one. When he's finished the case, he gives it to me and you. We read it. If we agree that, okay, you found him guilty and he should die, and we agree with him, like Thursday, they get together and you're dead. So when I found out possession of 28 grams of any controlled substance was the death penalty, I was like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I said, dude, in America, we ride down the street and just be shooting people on the street. Because 28 grams is like personal use.
Pocket change, yeah.
I'm like, wow. So when sitting here talking about all of it, it's like what we do in our country, criminals, serial killers, moms and dads that kill kids, all that, they should be thankful for the judicial system we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they never are.
No, because in other countries that everybody wants to speak up for nowadays, go live there. Just go visit it.
Yeah.
But then you have, I think that's more like where my intrigue comes from is more of is more from a psychology standpoint. Because like I said in the beginning, we all have brains here.
Yeah.
You get up every morning and go to work. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You want to cut their fucking head off, but you don't because we live in a society and we can't do shit like that. However, these people, like you look at like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, that fucking basket case, like the most evil person on the planet. In my opinion, out of all the research I've ever done, like I haven't found anybody more evil than him.
It's hard to compare.
But like him, he had no like motive. He had no like a lot of like I said earlier, like this weekend I'm killing all the South Koreans. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel he had none of that.
He did it for sport.
Sport.
That's basically what it was.
The devil told him to do it.
Right. Once he did the first one, and some of these serial killers, it's like a drug.
Yeah.
I did it once, and it's just the feeling.
Yeah.
And then I had to, to go to another one.
Right.
And I killed this one by strangling him. So I used the rope to hold that one while I stabbed him. And there's always, yes, I agree with you.
So relating it psychologically, do you feel like it's a psychological issue with all of these people,
100%.
potential serial killers?
100%.
Like something, they have a deficiency somewhere in the brain. 100%. They're not wired.
100%. Like,
dude, you ever, come on, I'm sure he does it too. You ever like look at somebody and go, his forehead's big, he's a murderer. You know what I'm saying? His head just looks like,
I have prejudged.
And to be honest with you, some people in law enforcement, the profilers and stuff, they take all that into consideration.
Absolutely.
You know,
I mean, I know there was a big study done, and especially when it related to like Ted Bundy and everything, and then like Ed Gein and stuff like that. They had psychologists sit down with them and actually study.
Well, a lot of that was John Douglas.
What portions of the brain make you do what? And some people lacked a certain hormone or certain portion of the brain that told you, hey, you shouldn't do that.
Well, a lot of them they end up getting like Ramirez, for example, and I know a few other ones. Head trauma. They would get hit really hard, and like I think
that's why the CTE shit's like
Ramirez. Ramirez had a dresser fall on him when he was a kid and knocked him out, and then I think he also had like there was an incident at a park while he was playing as a kid, got knocked out cold. So he had 2. So you have head trauma coupled with his cousin who came home from Vietnam and was showing him pictures of Vietnamese women that he was raping and then murdering, and like because
some of it you can relate to
PTSD, head trauma, and then he was just a fucking Looney Tune. Like, but it's like once it was all said and done, he gets locked up. They had to put a sign on his cell door saying, "Please don't look in here," because if he sees you looking at him, he's gonna start jerking off. Like, he was a fucking Looney Tune by the end of his life. Like, dude was crazy.
So to segue off of that, how do you feel about, or what is your thought on the Charles Manson whole scheme of things? Do you think he's a murderer? Because
Manson
technically he never actually killed anybody.
Yeah, no. Manson never killed anybody, but that's because he didn't have to. Like, I think Manson would easily have fucking killed somebody.
Mind control. I think he wanted to.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's like Jim Jones. Like, Jim Jones didn't kill anybody. Like, he just, brainwashed a lot of people.
Right. I mean, conspiracy to murder and murder is two different things, though.
But
you could put a gun to somebody's head and tell them to kill themselves, and, I mean, you didn't kill them, So, I mean, there's that.
You might smile at this because you know the journey I'm trying to take in life, okay?
Absolutely.
I attribute or put Charles Manson as like some of these false prophet ministers that you see on TV. They are just that good. You have some of these guys that literally, Larry, could say this light bulb can save you. This light bulb can, and you'd have people coming in and giving money for it.
That was Jim Jones.
So you would put him in like a David Koresh.
Yes,
absolutely.
Charles Manson was able to get people like him are able to read you, and they find a weakness that you have, and they play on that weakness, and they draw you in, and then you probably have a friend that has a weakness. I agree with Scott. Charles Manson could have killed LaBianca, Tate.
Well, like he had the situation with the record producer that didn't want to give him a deal, and he showed up to his house like with a gun, and he showed up to the house with a gun. The producer wasn't there, so he gave the guy's like doorman or whoever the fuck it was at his house. Handed him a bullet and was like, tell him that's from Charles Manson. Like, that's not normal people behavior. And like, I think he was just a loose cannon. However, he had enough people to do his bidding. He didn't have to do it himself. But then when John Douglas did talk to him, they said the first thing he did when he walked into the room, he sat on the back of his chair. And while they were all talking to him, he talked to him from sitting on top of his chair. And it was like they kind of broke that down, and it was like he has to feel like he's above you. That's his whole, like, if he doesn't have that, he has no purpose in life. So he has to be able to look down on you. He's preaching to you. He's telling you the right way, the way that things are. And everything that they would say to him, he had an answer for. And this is why you're wrong. So he had like the little man syndrome, because he wasn't a big guy. He was a little dude.
At all.
And then if you ever go watch any of his parole hearings, my God, entertaining.
Yes.
Well, speaking of,
I'm a wino. I'm a homeless man on the street. I'm a jug of wine. I'm a razor blade.
He wanted to be a musician.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was his main thing. Musically motivated, and got denied one too many times.
But funny thing, you mentioned his name earlier. I emailed Mr. Douglas about potentially doing an interview with him, and I just asked him a few things. And at the very end, I was like, I've read all of your books. I'm like, and you always mention that you spoke with Ed Gein, but you never go into detail. I'm like, I'm very curious what that interaction was like. And he emailed me back. It was a long email. And he emailed me back, and he just said, like, I'm sorry, I won't be able to blah, blah, blah. Like, he went on and on and on. And then at the last line of the email he was like, Ed Gein was mad I didn't get much out of that. It's like, another one is a fucking Looney Tune. Like, and if you watch any, like, there's very, very little video on Ed Gein, but if you ever can, like, find any and just watch... No, he was a basket case from his fucking mother. Like,
the fact that he was able to blend, so to speak.
He didn't.
But I mean, I'm sure the police suspected him immediately, even though he was pretending to basically be their friend and shit. I don't know how he didn't get caught sooner.
Because he only killed 2 people.
True.
He was a grave robber. He would steal bodies that he would read the obituaries because he wanted to build a suit of his mother, and he wore skin that looked like his mom, and he danced around the house, would dance outside in the rain and beat a drum made out of human skin and Somehow people never caught on to that until they kicked his door in. And it was like finally, I think the woman that worked at the gas station by his house like did something to upset him. So he shot her and then forgot that he left his receipt on it. Like, he wasn't a smart guy. That's another misconception that I think a lot of people need to get covered is everybody likes to say like, oh, that serial killer was a genius. He had like a genius. No, he didn't. He wouldn't have left the crowbar if he was. Like, geniuses don't do stupid shit like that.
Smart ones don't get caught.
Right. Like,
I can honestly say, I say that. I used to pick on my grandkids with that. I'm like, this kid's intelligent. He's either going to be a NASA scientist or a serial killer. But, you know.
Because everybody's like, they think of like the movie villains where it was like, it was me the whole time. And it was like, no, he was literally dressing up in a skin suit, naked, walking around the house because he always wanted to be like his mom.
Yeah.
And it was just like...
to put the police out of it and that, what you're saying, that's a lot of times when they catch these guys, like a Charles Manson, and they know how Charles Manson is, so we're going to play to that.
Yeah.
Because his ego is what's going to get him
Yeah.
You know, okay, this guy liked the skin and wanted to be in the skin of his mouth. We're going to play on that. Mm-hmm. And you see that, I think, on television.
Unfortunately for that with Ed Gein, though, is like while they're trying to like relate to him, he's making macaroni pictures. Like he was, there was no talking to him.
But what I'm saying is,
his mental was like a child.
Yeah, he was a kid.
The shows that I found just in the brief experience I had with some of the cases I was around. You remember Criminal Minds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've watched all of it.
The way when they would get the unsub in and how they questioned them is with some of these high detectives.
Right.
It was really close. I mean, we had a rape case on the East Bank years ago, and they not only brought in like a profile of it, they brought in a psychic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
that's desperate times.
They led us to believe that the guy, the rapist, which he had done at the time, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 rapes. So I guess you would call it serial rapes. Yeah. They attributed him to being a bum on the street because all the victims kept saying he stunk. He was sweaty and stinky, and the psychic was actually closer to it, but the guy lived off of Central, and he'd either run to where the areas were or he rode a bike. So sweaty.
Right.
He had scruffy facial hair. Dude, they had us in pipes of canals looking for this guy. Everything. Under bridges.
I mean, he might have wanted to make himself appear to be that way. That way he could throw people off.
But they getting more where if it's a serial thing, they bringing in these profilers and it's the intelligence. 1970, you didn't have what you have now. The education level of the criminal themselves too, but the investigators,
people are more advanced now.
Yes,
in the way of thinking, their way of doing things. I think it's a lot easier to solve these things now. It's also a lot easier for them to come up with a complex way of getting away with it.
And like he was saying earlier, that I agree. Like when he said, it's a psychological thing, and that's why I wanted to know what the three of us, like with your little music thing, I speak English, but I can't write music. We don't think like a criminal.
Right.
We might make jokes.
Some of us do.
Hey, no. We might sit here and make jokes like, all right, listen, I know how we can rob the Treasure Chest Casino, but we're not going to go do it.
No.
The people that do it, they don't have that.
They don't have that sense of
the moral of I'm not going to
like
do
a moral
that.
compass.
So some years back, one of my friends committed suicide. And immediately, I'm not going to say who, but like in one of the group chats where we were all talking, somebody poked their head up and was just like, well, that's just pussy. It's the easy way out. And it's like, yeah, you can look at it like, baseline, what's on the table right now. But if you look deeper, like to be able to, like you literally have something in your brain constantly telling you every day, don't throw yourself off that bridge. Don't throw yourself off that building. Do not run your car into that tree. Like, it's like breathing. Like you don't have to tell yourself to breathe while you're sleeping. You just have something that constantly tells your body to breathe. Same thing that keeping you alive. And I think that also goes hand in hand with like these types of murderers, is that it's like that, like we all have something in our brains that tells us you don't kill somebody. Like you call it what it is, religion, the way you were brought up, morals, however, whatever. But something in them does not have that.
Right.
And that's where it starts to get more interesting. Like you look at like in the way that we normally carry ourselves. Like you have a wife, right. You love her, you have kids. Are you married? No. Well, you have kids, you love them. I'm sure unconditionally. Like I love mine. But then you have somebody like a Richard Speck. Richard Speck's in prison, and somebody, I think they interviewed him or whatever, and during the interview, they noticed that he kept like reaching in his jacket and like, doing whatever. And they were like, "What are you doing over there?" And he was like, "Oh, it's my friend. He had a little bird, a little mini sparrow. And he had the sparrow in his jacket and was like feeding it. And that was his friend, and he loved his little bird. And he found it on the yard. It had a broken leg, and he nursed it back to health. And this is the same guy that apparently killed 8 women. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, oh, wow, he actually does know how to love something. This is crazy.
So he has that sympathy, but it's not...
He walks out of the interrogation room after having this whole thing, and they look at him and they go, "Richard, you know you can't have a bird in your fucking cell. Give it to us." And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to just give you my bird." And they were like, "Well, you can't have it in your cell." So he took it and threw it into the fan.
Into the rotating. You can't have it.
And that's how he feels. Is he's like that, and that's how they psychologically broke it down. If I can't have this, you can't have this. I love it. You can't have it. Right. And that's how some of them people's brains works.
All right. So opposite end of the spectrum. But you got something before you
to show? I mean. No, go ahead. I can barely add this.
A bunch of fans reached out, and we had talked about the Chris Watts case.
Yeah.
A bunch. And you said if we ever wanted to do a deep dive.
The unhealthy obsession I had with that case.
So you sent me all of the transcripts from the interrogation, the
That's
text
1,000 pages of just...
And I read it all. Fucking down a spiral I couldn't control. First of all,
if we're doing this, talk to your sponsors. I gotta go make another drink for this.
You do your thing, bro. The Chris Watts thing in general pisses me off because he actually acknowledges the fact, like afterwards, when he admits to what he's done after so much interrogation and everything. I want to get Scott's perspective when he comes back about what makes killers in general that much more sexier to the general public of like females. This dude gets more, if you hear my dog, sorry. This dude gets more love notes in prison than I've ever seen in my life. I mean, even Charles Manson got love notes. People wanted to be with him. I'll put money on your account because you're sexy, and thinking they're going to come home to be with him. And I'm going to repeat myself whenever he gets back. I just want y'all to know that. But my whole thing, that's what I want to know. Like, what makes these people so much more attractive to the general public? So what I was saying, in like the case of Chris Watts, and not even necessarily the fact that he murdered his wife and kids. He admitted to it after a while.
After a while, fucking scumbag.
What do you think makes a killer that much more attractive to the general public? Like, females send him so many love letters. They sent Manson love letters. I mean, they want to be with these people.
There was a study done, and the conclusion that they came to was there's a few different types of women that you'll normally see reaching out to these kind of guys. Number one, we can get that one out the way first. It's the danger. It's like, I'm married to a guy. He's a bad boy. He murdered
he won't kill me. I must have that bomb.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and like you see that one all the time. It's literally just like, and then they can go home and tell their friends, like, guess who? I'm married to the Night Stalker. Like, crazy fucking people. But then from there, there's also the abused women. A lot of abused women go to those guys because aside from the whole like psychological, like this is what I deserve type deal that happens a lot of times, it's also on the flip side, he can't hurt me because he's in prison. I can control this relationship. Every other relationship I've ever been in, I was beaten. I was, verbally abused, physically abused, all of these other things. But now I control this. Yeah. If he upsets me, I stop calling. And I'll tell him that. If you upset me, I'm going to stop calling you. I'm going to stop coming. And then, no. Like, you're the only access I have to the outside world. Please don't leave me. So now they're in control for the first time.
Makes sense.
And their, love life. And then there was another one. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But, like, those are the two big ones. Is that you'll normally see, like, a lot of women like that are just... And then, of course, you have the fucking psychopaths that are just like, I want you to take me to the graveyard.
Give me some advice. I'd like to go kill somebody.
I want you to take me to the... I think one woman with Richard Ramirez was like, I want you to take me to the graveyard and fuck me on your victim's grave. Like...
Jesus
yeah,
Christ. Like... yeah, so in the Chris Watts case, we don't have to theorize what happened because
clear.
We know what happened.
Yeah.
What do you think motivated him to become that person and drive him to do what he did? Do you think it was the fact that he got with that other chick and had to decisively get rid of Shanann? But then what motivated him to get rid of the kids as well?
Clean slate. Because apparently she had mentioned, she denied it in her interview, but apparently she made mention to a coworker, he's already, quote unquote, been there, done that. He's already got a family. He's already got a wife. He's already got kids. And now I'm about to get with a guy that's already got 2 kids. Is he going to want more? But apparently she mentioned that to a coworker. She said she never directly said that to him, but I don't trust her to begin with. So
she was a little too... I don't know the word to use because I don't want to disrespect her, but her social media presence alone kind of was a red flag.
Her Google searches alone.
Very red flag.
Like, she already was under the impression that she was going to get a book deal out of this, like, because she brought up Scott Peterson. When Scott Peterson killed his wife for his mistress, and the mistress came out, exposed him, and she became a hero. I think Nicole, if I'm not mistaken, Kissinger. I think Nicole Kissinger. No, was that the person that helped? There was 2 Nicoles in the case.
Yeah, one Nicole was her best friend.
The other Nicole was the mistress. Well, the mistress, like, she already thought that she was gonna, like, somehow be the hero in this story, and completely backfired. And she's one of the most hated people on the internet.
Yeah.
So
I've seen some of the comments. It's
but like bad. The big thing is like Chris has been very. Vocal that he gave, I want to say he gave his kids pills to basically put them to sleep, or his wife, I can't remember which.
But then doesn't that go against? Wasn't they're saying that one of the daughters
so it must have been Shanann or something like.
Yeah,
I think. The thing was, he was giving her pills because she was pregnant with the son. He was giving her pills, so she crushing up pills and putting it in her drink so she'd have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
But he will not say where he got the pills from. He said he'll take that to the grave. He got it from Nicole.
Of course.
Like,
he's probably telling the girl,
allegedly.
Hey, man, listen, I gotta get this motherfucker away from you.
Right.
And she's probably gonna try to take the kids anyway.
Right.
Another one of those, if I can't have them, you can't have them type deals.
And I think he really,
or he just wanted a
clean slate. Yeah. He wanted a clean slate. He was like, if I can get rid of her and the kids, and just the piss poor planning that he put into getting rid of them, told me that in his mind, he really believed, I kill the wife, kill the kids. I don't know where she went. She went to a play date with her friends, and everybody would be like, oh, okay, well then they'll turn up, and then. A couple months would go by and somebody would be like, hey, did you ever hear what happened to Shanann? That's crazy. She's still going with your kids? Like, yeah, she still never came back. And like, I really believe it. He thought that that's how it was going to go.
Yeah, he was oblivious from
because like we spoke
the first interview.
Like we spoke about a little bit earlier, where it was like people deal with trauma differently. Like you can't look at any one person and just be like, oh, you're not crying, therefore you did it.
No, but however, the nonchalantness,
how nonchalant he was the entire time.
Like, oh yeah, she went somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, and then he just like any interview they did with him, anytime they talked, it felt like that we were bothering him. Like, yeah, I remember like I think that also kind of helped with my obsession was that I saw the news report. Like I remember getting like the reports on my phone and stuff, and like a woman and her 2 kids were missing, like X, Y, and Z. And then like seeing the actual video of him doing the interview, and then later on finding out that he actually did it, I was like, of course he fucking did. Of course he did.
On our Daniela case, that's what kind of made me suspect the best friend Hannah almost immediately, is because, or at least she had knowledge of what happened, is because the nonchalantness, like she was already referring to Daniela in the past tense 3 days after she disappeared.
That's a big one.
And then like taking things from memorabilia, and she hadn't even been found. She's still missing. So you have to have in your head, oh, it's over.
Yeah, they're gone.
So how do you process?
Like we also said earlier, it's like if we heard that our kid got kidnapped, we're gonna keep that shred of hope. Like they're definitely still alive.
I'm not
and it's
gonna be
like,
asking, hey, can I keep this for memory?
Yeah, right.
3 days after they go missing.
Yeah, it's like if you found out tomorrow Grayson was kidnapped, and now I'm looking at y'all going, so how do I like cash in on his life insurance policy? Like, gonna raise some red flags.
Be like, so how much money can I get?
How much can I get out of this?
That's, you know what's if you want to call it a shame, that's how some of these idiots that do the murders of a family member actually act.
Yeah.
Well, how come I haven't been contacted by the insurance company?
Yeah.
What?
That's normally the giveaway. Is it's like he kept asking about money.
Okay, listen, put her back in the car and take her to the office.
Yeah.
Right. Like. But yeah, man.
I have one for y'all. It's a true crime, I guess.
I got one for you.
He's probably gonna know what you're talking about before I do. But
As soon as I say the name, y'all, I just want to see y'all react. Gypsy Rose.
Oh shit! Oh, Gypsy! And they just talked about her on.
I'm bringing this up.
Gypsy, my baby Gypsy.
I'll let you expect, because I really haven't. I know this and that from it. Adrian, my girlfriend.
Oh, okay. I thought this was another person.
TikTok.
She's not dead yet.
This shit, like it's
Yeah.
I need to see this so that I can stay living.
So Gypsy Rose, I can say with full confidence she does not deserve to be in jail. I don't believe she deserves to be in jail. Being hailed as a hero, I think, is a stretch. Like people using her as like now she's this fucking celebrity, and like all of this. This is where it starts to feel weird, because what happened was like her mom had Munchausen by proxy, and forced her daughter to like get her like some teeth removed, and
she was like wheelchair.
She made her ride around in a wheelchair, like to counteract what Turtle said during the episode. Gypsy never thought she couldn't walk. She knew she could walk,
she just played
but her
into
mom just constantly was like, "No, baby, you can't walk. You have to stay in your chair." And it was like, "What are you talking? I'm walking right now." No, you can't.
I mean, it came out that she was getting up in the middle of the night, walking around. Like she knew she could. She was just playing along because she thought that was what she had to do.
One of the telltale signs for the doctors were they were like, for a child that has been wheelchair bound her entire life, she's got great leg muscles. Like that, you don't see that.
Right.
Like normally the legs are fucking like
no degradation
useless.
at all. Nothing.
And from there, she fucking found the internet and found a guy. They started trading sexy photos. And what my favorite thing is, if you ever get a chance, and for your listeners, for your girlfriend, and for everybody that is interested in the case, I always say go watch the HBO special, because I'll never forget. My cousin had me go watch the special, and halfway through when they introduced the boyfriend, they show a news clip. It lasts about 2 seconds. And it's like he was arrested for masturbating in a McDonald's for 8 hours. And then they just move the fuck on. I'm like, nope, back up. I remember being in my ex-girlfriend's house, like 2 ex-girlfriends ago, just being in the house watching that. I'm like, no. I need you to expand. Like, I'm already getting rug burn listening to you say that.
We can't walk past that.
Right.
And I think there was only one thing I ever found that, like, they kind of expanded on it, but they were just like, see, he's a psychopath. And I was like, I still need details.
He's a psychopath that got away with masturbation in a McDonald's for 8 hours. Who the fuck didn't intervene?
And I'm saying 8 hours is a placeholder. It might have been longer. Like, if we're being honest, I think it might have
went for breakfast and stayed for lunch.
And dinner. Like, he worked a shift at McDonald's just in the booth.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, so he basically talked to her, and she more or less played into his, like we talked about earlier, like they'll play into that thing. So she has a manipulative mind, but I think it's out of defense, like because of her mother. Like, I don't truly think Gypsy's the psychopath or like mastermind.
No,
but
you can only take so much.
So you don't think she manipulated him?
100%. That's what I'm saying. She does have that manipulation, but I think it's out of defense. I have a guy right now that is super interested in me. Like it's like that thing, the Pirates of the Caribbean when they're all stuck in that jail cell and they see the dog with the keys and they're like, come here. Look, I got a bone. It's like whatever I have to do to get those keys out of that dog's mouth. It's like I have a guy that's interested in me right now. My pussy has power. So it's like, I'll give you some if you fucking. And then I remember like the joke I made on the Hangover was would you do this for me? And it's like, yeah, dude, I'll kill your mom for you. You'll kill my mom for me? Yeah, I'll kill your mom. I'll kill your mom and rape her corpse. Back up. How about you just kill her? I think he took it that far. Like he was like, I'll kill her if I can rape her. And then like she had to like talk him down. Like, no, let's just kill her. Yeah. And then right. Back up a bit. But then he ended up going into that. Like she let him into the house. He went in, killed the mom, and then they ran and eventually got caught because they're still kids, I guess, if you want to call them that. So. And then she spent, the better part of 10 years, I think it was, in prison. Yeah. And she finally got paroled and she finally got out. And like I said, I do think she did what she did out of desperation. I do think that her mom is a fucking scumbag. Got exactly what she deserved. But this whole, number one, I also think she was thrown back into regular life way too soon. Like, she went from being manipulated by her mother her entire life to prison to now she's just allowed to go do whatever she wants. Like, I think there was no, like, mental health intervention.
I think that's a problem with more than just somebody of her stature. I think that's, like, the transition from jail to normal life from career criminals or people who have been locked up for multiple years. There's no transition period. You are thrown into it and it's like, hey, go survive.
I'm not an expert, but prison feels to me like timeout. Where it's like you get put in this cell and it's just like all right, you were bad, you got 10 years. And like, you know, like you probably tell Gunner, like you go sit in your room for 20 minutes. Yeah. It's basically the same thing. And then you come out and you're like, did you learn your lesson? No, I've just been sitting here for 20 years. Like
shit is way different than what it was when I came here. Yeah. So how do I adapt?
Depending upon the amount of time they serve before they get out, a lot of them feel it's better. It's
better inside.
For me to just go back inside.
I have a family member like that. Every time he gets out, he's out for 6 months and then figures out a way to get himself back for 5 years. Like,
it's just because it's literally the adjustment.
That's the routine they've known for so long. When they get up, when they shower, when they eat.
Yep.
Institutionalized.
Right. Institutionalized.
Yeah, that shit's crazy. But what?
Wait, I want to hear what he said. You had a question for me.
Oh yeah, that's what I was getting at.
So, and I asked him before you came because I didn't want you to show your age. But were you dealing in police around the 80s, 90s? JP?
I got on the sheriff's office December 6th of 1985. I left in 97.
So, were you familiar with the Janet Myers case? It was Terrytown.
Okay, no. I worked in the detective bureau, but a lot of my career was spent on the East Bank.
A lot of people, like, whenever we have these discussions, because, like, for some reason, when people know you're, like, a true crime head, they always want to, like, know you're, like, your top 5, like, who's my favorites. And it feels weird being like, yeah, Ted Bundy's my favorite of all time, and then close second's Jeffrey Dahmer. You know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like talking about like football players.
I have that question before a different reason, and I'll ask it after you elaborate.
Yeah, that's fine. But the Janet Myers situation was always interesting to me. Let me see if I could just pull. I can never remember the other guy's name. But it was Janet Myers. She had her husband, Kerry Myers, and her lover, and I want to say his name was George. And the State versus Myers, it was 1989. It was Kerry Myers and William Fontenot. And one of them recently got out of prison, like in the past 5 years, I believe it was. The other one got a life sentence. Essentially, police show up to the house. There's 2 men that have been beating the shit out of each other all day. In a little house in Terrytown, or I think it might have been Woodmere, maybe. I don't know. It was somewhere on the West Bank.
It says Harvey.
Harvey, okay. Well, they basically end up in the house. Kerry finds out that Will, or Bill, whatever you want to call him, is his wife's lover.
And we had a little bit of technical difficulties. We got cut off. for whatever reason. But as we were saying, Scott was saying, we left off explaining that this Will Bill guy was found out to be the boyfriend.
They both they both beat the shit out of each other for 10 hours. I don't know how much of that you got.
Yeah.
But they beat the shit out of each other for 10 hours, took breaks to watch TV, the whole nine. And then police come in, arrest both the men. They find the son beaten in the bedroom, laying in a pool of vomit. And they find the wife dead, Janet, in the back room. Both men go to jail. Both men get interrogated. They both give mirror stories, the exact same story, but blame the other guy for the murder.
That is so crazy.
It's wild.
What was the cause of death on par?
I think she was stabbed.
I know there was a question about a baseball bat.
There was a baseball bat, yes.
But I don't know if that was the beating of each other with the baseball bat.
They were hitting each other with the baseball bat, for sure.
So.
I think the son was also cracked over the head with the baseball bat, and that's how he got knocked out. But yeah, and like this.
I'm going to use the term you said about him. This true crime nerd is now going to have me researching the Janet Myers case.
Crazy.
I do remember something about
one of them just got out of jail.
Them fighting a case where there was two guys that fought for hours.
Yeah.
And then so now you're going to have me digging that. And then I'm going to tell you now, Adrian, who gets into the podcast, she likes when we do things and then she hears stuff. She will go down the rabbit hole on this
There's
case.
not a lot. It's crazy that there's really not a lot. This one, for some reason, is not talked about often. And I mean, maybe I'm obviously showing more love to it because it's like the hometown murder.
Right, yeah.
But it's just like, I've never heard it. Like, I remember my mom telling me that. Like, she was like, because they even mention a part in the book where they were like, they met up in the Christ the King parking lot. I grew up 2 doors down from Christ the King. So I'm like, they were right fucking, like, that's how my brain works. They were right fucking there. Like, so... I ended up getting the book. I think I just saw it online. It was on sale, I think. It's $23 on Publishers Weekly. But it was a hell of a read, man. And I mean, I read it so long ago, I can't give you like crazy details like I could about like a Gypsy Rose or something like that. But yeah, definitely give that one a look if you get a chance. Because I know like the first probably half of the book is just the transcripts.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool.
It's wild.
And you said something when we was fixing the recording. You said something about your voice. What did you say?
My voice?
Yeah, you were like, I hate my voice.
Oh no! I, like when he was playing back some of the clips.
Said, at least
I'm glad I don't sound like shit. That's what I'm.
I was getting ready to say because I didn't catch it. But listen, you got
he has a radio
voice.
He does. He has a. I've always said that he has a radio voice.
That's better than people telling me I have a face for radio, which is normally what I hear.
Well, I would be too afraid that if I said something like that, you might think I was coming on to you or something.
No.
That's for their face for my radio.
What kind of show did you bring me into?
So I guess I said earlier I would ask you the question, but I'm going to ask it a different way.
Sure.
Of the true crime genre, all these prolific cases and all that, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite was based on the nature of the crime. Or
Gary Ridgway's got the best numbers of anybody.
So what cases would not only intrigue you the most, but stump you the most?
Like specifics?
Like which one would you say throws you off the most to the point where like it's unsolved, you had a theory, but you just can't come to a definitive conclusion on what you actually think happened? Which one stumps you?
No, I was about to say, like, you said, like, had a theory but can't come to definitive. I'll give you one that I have no theory. Like, I have no idea.
Fair enough.
They have one from way back when, so obviously there's no DNA, there's no, like, nothing. It's called the Hinterkaifeck murders. I don't know if I put you onto that one at all.
You didn't, but I actually saw it when I Googled prolific murders.
Yeah, the Hinterkaifeck murders is crazy. No, I put it in there because you were trying to pronounce it when I put it in there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm drunk. Don't listen.
No, you're fine. That one is crazy because essentially what you have is you have a family of probably somewhere, I think it was around 6. Like you have the wife, you have the husband, you have the wife, the daughter, her like couple of kids, whatever. and the housekeeper. And it happened in Germany. Basically, like you had the housekeeper that quit like a week beforehand because she would be like keeping up around the house and would find newspapers that she knew they didn't buy. She was like nobody's even been to the market today. Like how's this newspaper here? Like she kept hearing shit in the attic. Kept like she was like, yo, this house is like haunted. Like I gotta get the fuck out of here type shit. Yeah. And she leaves. She quits. They hire the new housekeeper. She was there for 3 days. Suddenly, radio silence. Like you hear nothing from the house. You hear nothing. People show up and they're like, finally like, all right, we got to do like a wellness check. Kick the door down if we have to. Kick the door down. Baby's dead in the crib. Housekeeper's dead in the house somewhere. And the rest of the family are piled on top of each other in the barn that they had right next to the house. They had, the dad had been complaining to the neighbor a few times that he would look off his farm and just see a guy staring like out of a fucking horror movie, staring at them from the tree line, just watching them. Oh no. Like fucking Batman. They said like they had like they noticed that there were tracks in the snow that would go to the house but not away from the house. And like a horror movie, man.
So like he was living in a crawl space.
He was living like in the attic. And then came down. Obviously, he must have killed the family immediately. Yeah. And then lived in the house for 3 days. Like, people remembered passing by the house. The lights were on. The chimney was smoking. Like, somebody just put on a fresh fire. Like, and the chores around the house that they did with the animals, the barn, and, like, everything, all were done. All 3 days. Huh. And then they get there. Just a bunch of dead bodies. And he's gone.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. That's one that I've read. I've looked up articles. I've looked up stories. Like, and you can't.
Would assume he would be something of like a transient that took shelter or refuge in their attic and was just like, oh fuck, I gotta
kill him. You know?
I need this house.
There's that, and I mean, I don't know if you would put this into the true crime genre, but like Joseph Mengele. The Angel of Death in Auschwitz. And like, you know, what happened to him? Like, he was one of the few that escaped. And according to like some locals, he had a stroke while he was swimming off the coast of Argentina or something like that and drowned. But nobody can say definitively. Right, you know what I'm saying? So like, what happened to him? And, you know, just shit like that.
So do you have a job?
I do.
I'm just asking because... I mean, we're going to do this true crime thing, and we're going to bring Scott here, and he's going to talk to us about serial killers. This bitch just went to Germany. I ain't even left Metairie.
Yeah, man.
He's Argentina.
It's been like this.
What? Okay.
I've known Scott was this far into it for a long time.
Like, you want to, like, just to show you, and for the record, this is not okay. I keep looking like there's a camera. This is not okay. I had an old job where I had to travel a lot, and I went to hospitals all over the country. Mm-hmm. They gave me a case in Denver, Colorado. I landed.
You went to Columbine.
I went to Columbine.
Literally, the day he landed.
The day I landed.
First thing I
did. I went to the Columbine Memorial, and I had like that moment at one point where I was like, I probably shouldn't just be hanging outside of a high school at 9 p.m. Like, it's not a good look.
Class is not in session.
Yeah, like, and I mean,
you know, when I worked up in Denver for about a year.
Beautiful fucking city.
It is. The whole area up there, but Columbine never even crossed my mind. I wanted to go to where the guy got on the bulldozer and rode around the town. That's what I wanted.
I forgot about that guy.
And I mean, not that that's a serial killer, just what he was.
No, that dude's just he's a personal hero of mine.
But I thought more about wanting to do that, and this dude's wanting to go to the.
Well, Columbine specifically, because I think that was my first, like, I remember getting off of school, going home, and my mom, like, being in tears on the couch, like, watching it unfold on TV. And then I actually went back in my teenage years, and there's a very, let me pull it up, because this guy actually deserves the credit.
His Google fingers are better than mine.
Dave Cullen. He wrote a book called Columbine, and it is like the definitive play-by-play of what transpired. And I went back like in my teenage years and read that, and like it changed my entire outlook on like the school shooter. Because like everybody has that like vision of the school shooter. He was bullied and he was this and it's all bullshit. Like they tried to push that they were gothic and they were that, and so people started attacking gothic kids at school. And like I remember being in school during that time, and like we thought the gothic kids were weird because they were the school shooters, and like how that like spills out into society and like that becomes a thing. And it's like none of that was true. They weren't gothic. They wore trench coats because one kid had a Dracula costume, thought the trench coat was cool, so he kept it, and like they all just started wearing it. And like then from there, like the conspiracy theories drive me fucking insane. Like I can't even enjoy them anymore.
Yeah.
I used to love conspirity theories.
I stopped the conspiracy theory thing after the Sandy Hook shooting.
Sandy Hook, 9/11, like all of it, like. And that's what I say every time. It's like, do I really believe I know everything that happened on 9/11? Of course not. I'm not stupid enough to think that they would tell us everything that happened. Right. But do I really think like, and this is the example I always bring up because you fucking idiots have believed it. A missile with a hologram of a plane around it flew into the building. Come on, man.
Special kind of stupid people.
Yeah, and it's like then like now the conspiracy theories are taking away from the actual problem. You're blaming the U.S. government instead of Al-Qaeda. Now, is the U.S. government perfect? Of course not. Right. But Al-Qaeda was the problem here, and that needed to be addressed. Like, were there other things involved? Of course. But, come on.
Well, that actually leads me to my next question.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Sure. The school shootings that are becoming more prevalent and happening so often, do you think that they're... society has generalized this happening so much, and it's happening so often that they don't become as prolific as, say, it happened 20 years ago at this rate? Do you think that society's turned a blind eye to it because it's happening so frequent, or do you think it's something that it's not looked at as that was a significant event anymore?
That's everything. Everything. It's not even just school shootings. We have access to the internet now.
Yeah.
So when we were kids, Columbine was crazy because we've never seen anything like that before. And it's on national television. And this is happening all the way in fucking Denver.
Yeah.
Now you open your phone, it just happened in 3 other cities.
Yeah.
Why should we care anymore? It happens every day.
It's kind of like the frequency of how it's happening versus...
And now we have such...
a societal look at this is just unacceptable versus how often it's happening.
Correct.
Just like he said, as in everything, you never seen all the shit that comes out now about like where they videotaping policemen on traffic stops. It happens every day, everywhere, in every city, in every state.
Every hour.
But you didn't know it.
Yeah.
Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is videotaping something. And so social media has brought it to...
The worst thing around here is that fucking West Bank nosy neighbor shit.
Oh, my God. And fuck them.
I've been on it.
No, like, fuck them because they won't accept me.
5 times.
They won't let me in.
Banned from a couple of them.
But even that, West Bank nosy neighbors, when I was a kid, was Neighborhood Watch.
Well, we had a guy...
And they had a meeting, twice a month.
Yes. We had a guy in our neighborhood that rode around in an old school Crown Vic with a cop on the side of it. It stood for Citizens on Patrol.
Correct.
And a few of them literally acted like they were police officers and rode around after curfew and would, like, jack up kids. And they didn't even have a commission. It was just a it was a nighttime watch group.
Yeah.
Yes.
That shit is crazy. You can't do that now.
No.
Because you get shot.
And then, like I was saying, it was Neighborhood Watch. Well, we just felt like it was the nosy old lady that was...
Yeah.
But they were trying. Now, you don't really have to try. You just got to...
Yep.
Yeah.
Now everything's on your phone.
It's a problem.
It gets uploaded, and now some kid in New York just saw what you just uploaded, and now it's national news.
That's right.
And that's why, like, I don't even think it's school shootings. I think it's everything. Like, we've become so desensitized to horrible shit happening because we're exposed to it 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I still get on it every now and then, but it's like I've tried to stay off of TikTok. I try not to watch. Like, I started rewatching Breaking Bad, man, because I'm like, I need to, like, not see people dying every day on the fucking internet. Like, it's because like people, and then you ask me about like the election. I know nothing. I don't even know the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. Like, I don't know, because you want to know why? Today when I got food, it was undercooked. My chicken was undercooked. It was still pink on the inside. I cut my finger open earlier today while I was fixing something at the hotel. I did all kinds. I have enough shit that pisses me off on a daily basis. I can't imagine. My dad is like, you need to pay more attention to politics. This is your future. And then he walks around with this vein poking out of his fucking head all day because somebody did something that, like, it should be illegal, but I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. I'm so tired. Like, my kid, I told somebody the other day, my favorite thing about being a father now, my kid and me or my kid and I, or whatever grammar Nazis say.
Not English class.
We're walking to the backyard, and he stopped while we were walking, and he reached over and he picked a flower. And I know this sounds gay as fuck. He picked a flower and he handed it to me, and he was like, "Daddy, flower." And I was like, "Yes, that is a flower." And I took it from him, and he just stared at it. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, everything is still awesome to him. Like, the world hasn't beat the shit out of him yet. So, like, he still wakes up every day and walks around and is just like this. Like, he wakes up in the morning, he's like, "Dad, everything's still here." Like it didn't go anywhere. Like, everything is still so cool. And, like, to me, that is the best thing about being a parent, is that, like, I can now look through him and it just be like, the world doesn't just suck. Yeah. Like, there are serial killers everywhere. Like, we've been talking about this whole time. But it's like, at least with him, it's like, I know I get a break. Like, I get a second to breathe. Like,
yeah, it's your sense of
not
innocence.
everything sucks. But again, since we're on the Jeffrey Dahmer is one of my favorite serial killers.
Why?
Oh, I actually didn't think you want me to expand. No, Jeffrey Dahmer is actually very special because I feel bad for him more than anybody.
What did you think about the Netflix?
Loved it. You want to know why I loved it? Like, on a serious note, the reason I loved Dahmer on Netflix is because you look at like a Gary Ridgway. Mm-hmm. He killed 200 people. You look at Richard Ramirez, something around 25, 35, something like that. He killed 25, 35 people. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Dahmer, I think it was somewhere around 15, if I'm not mistaken, killed 15 people. You say that, and then we move on. The reason the Netflix special was so great is because you put a name to those people. It's not just, oh, he killed 15 people. No. He killed Mark, who was a father. And he lived in the X, Y, and Z city with his wife, and he had a life. He wasn't just an NPC in your everyday life. Like, this was a person. Right. He also killed David. David was a pastor at his, like, you start to get an idea that, like, you know, people just keep throwing out numbers. It was like, oh, he killed 200 people and he did it with a machete. And then this actually put, like, a name and a face to the victim.
You like the fact that it kind of humanized the villain.
Yes. It humanized the villain. It humanized the victims. Yeah. And because, like, that's another thing that people kind of skim over when, like, you look at a Jim Jones. It's like, yeah, he killed 1,000 people. And it's like, yeah, that was 1,000 people. Right. And I think that's the coolest part about the Dahmer special is that he, like, you put a face to a name, and they're not just a number on, like, another notch in the headboard.
Instead of making Jeffrey Dahmer that social spotlight, they put the spotlight on the victim.
Yeah. So and that's why I hate terms that people use like glamorize it. No, it didn't. Like nothing about that was glamorous.
Not at all. I think the only argument they had with the special glamorizing anything was the fact that people were dressing up as him as Halloween.
Yeah,
but that glamorized the topic. That didn't glamorize the person as a murderer.
Correct. And also, and I think I spoke a little bit about this on my own podcast. But let me reiterate that once you cross a line, I don't give a shit how you got there. But I do think what brought you to that line is important. And that's what, to me, differentiates Jeffrey Dahmer from everybody else. Jeffrey Dahmer was just a sad person. I don't necessarily believe him to be, quote unquote, evil. Like, I think he just wanted to cuddle, man. Like, and if you really break it down to like the bottom, just the surface tension, just the surface.
You saying cuddle,
yes,
as in CUDDLE.
Yes.
I think cuddle like CUTALL. Cut off. That's just the difference.
Well, because like I said earlier, like with Richard Ramirez, he just murdered, just indiscriminately, and would just go into your house, he was the movie The Strangers. He was that guy. Like, he would just show up to your house and just be why are you doing this to me? Because you were home.
Yeah, one of the last movies that actually scared the fuck out of me was that movie. Because it can happen.
But then you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, and he would have to get wasted before he did what he did.
He almost had no knowledge.
He hated himself for it. There's one murder in particular he doesn't even remember doing. He just knows he woke up with a dead body laying next to him. Yeah. Because the murder wasn't the intention. The murder was a means to an end.
Right.
He just nobody loved him in his mind. Yeah. Nobody gave a shit about him. Yeah. This was the only way that he could have companionship. Therefore, he had to drug these people to get with him. But when these people wake up, they're going to be very upset that I drugged them. I have to kill them. Not, again, once you cross the line, I don't give a fuck how you got there. Right. But he is a different. You can't lump him in with everybody else because he is a different case.
Right, the intent was different.
The intent was very different.
Going off of us joking back and forth about what, I'll say this. As an older guy, journeying or trying to take the journey with my Lord Jesus Christ, I accept what you're saying that, okay, let's try to find out. But at the time when I would hear these things, I wanted to, my only thought was,
don't give a shit.
Door, shoot this mother right in his eyes.
I still agree with you.
And just, it's over. We know it was you. Good night. See you later. Everybody go home.
He had to die. Like I said, I'm just now in a place, or not now in a place, but I've always been in a place of why'd you do it? You know what I'm saying? And I get what you're saying. I don't give a shit why you did it. And again, I don't condone what you did. However, I am very curious to understand why, because my brain doesn't work like that. So I want to know how your brain works.
But I'm also you attributed to what you did with your son and the flower.
Yeah.
You find, I'm trying to think how you say, beauty in that.
Yeah.
And I do too.
Of course.
Want you to understand that. I find beauty in that. But man, as happy as you asked if I have kids, I have a daughter.
Ooh.
Salute. My daughter's probably as old as you, if not older.
But having a daughter is definitely a leg up.
A firecracker too.
And with Adrian, who has a son, each of us, I always say I have 8 grandchildren. 5 from my daughter and 3 from Michael. I'm as excited as I was when these kids were born, and you're I'm so amazed. You sit there and you hold them as a baby.
Yeah.
Look at them fingers. Look at that. I also sit there and say, this is such a cruel, cruel world. What can I do to protect this baby from this cruel world?
That was the point I was making when I told the story about my son with the flowers. It's what do I have to do to keep that? What do I have to keep him away from? What do I have to put him in? What do I have to hide him from or expose him to? Right. Just so every day he wakes up, he realizes how cool life actually is.
Right.
Not just the bullshit that comes behind it. And that's why it's shit like this that we're talking about is it's terrifying, because it's like we said, when it came to, anybody's 15, 20, 35 victims, it's that could be my son.
Right.
That could be me. That could be anybody that we give a shit about. And it's that's why I think we need as much knowledge about these people as we possibly can.
Yes. And today, I agree with you.
Correct.
30 years ago, I'd have said, stick it up your ass, Scott. We're going to kick the door, and we're going to get rid of him. If he's got a dog, the dog
goes with him.
The fish gets put out the pot.
I'm killing your plants.
Right.
Everything dies.
Everything, the house. And you ain't even going to have the house. Your family ain't going to screw it.
But then, like, you got like a Ted Bundy, and it's like, what? There was no rhyme or reason for what he did. Like, he's another one that, like, you look at Ramirez. Ramirez is evil incarnate, in my opinion. Bundy's a close second.
I think Bundy made it a game. It was
Very much so.
It was almost like a repetition thing where, like, I've done it the same way so often. I almost have to continue that cycle to keep
Bundy's
myself fed.
Bundy's the one that I will agree had somewhat of a genius IQ. Like for being able to kill that many people, like across state lines, but then also he had a girlfriend. Like I read her book, the Phantom Prince or something like that. Like I read her book, and great movie with Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. He did a great fucking job.
Extremely wicked.
Yeah, that's what the judge told him.
Yeah.
The ending was stupid because in no way accurate, but I get they had to like Hollywood it up a little bit. Yeah. But then once Bundy gets to Florida, and he got to Florida by escaping from jail, getting to Florida, and then kills 3, 4, 5 women in a fucking sorority house because the urges became too much, and he like that's when you know it's a mental thing too, because like. In our heads, like right now, we go outside and we go do something, and we're now being chased by the police, and we get away. The first thing that our brains tell us to do is be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Don't do nothing to get yourself in more trouble because you're gonna go to jail if you get caught. Right. Plus, they're gonna catch you for the other shit that they're already chasing you. He didn't give a fuck. His brain turned off and was like, grab this stick and go beat those sorority women to death.
I can't take him seriously after the Schultz stand-up thing where he's the most prolific serial killer ever because he drove a tan Volkswagen Beetle
and still picked up women.
Still got all those women. Imagine if he drove a Porsche.
With that,
you know what I'm saying?
That just goes back to I used to say that at one time in my life I was able to have a Corvette.
Oh shit!
And friends would be like, "Dude, you're gonna get the women." I'm like, no. The car don't make the man. It's the man that makes the car. That's what Ted Bundy was in that example. You're right. He could have probably been on a moped with a basket on the front, and he'd have still got him because it's what he did.
I'm so glad you said that.
But it's the truth.
Because I had a debate recently with Nikki, not recently, but like in the past year, and it was because she even tried to say like, Ted Bundy wasn't attractive. He wasn't. This and that. They just try to sexualize him for that. That's not true. By his day's standards, he was charming. Yes. He was attractive by his day's standards. Right. He was a good-looking guy. He was a successful man. He was in politics. Like they thought he was going to be the fucking governor at some point, and he was charming. Like he knew how to like. The woman walking, I can go park in the Walmart parking lot right now and say, hey, can you come help me put something in my car? And the woman's going to run for her fucking life. Yeah. He was able to convince them just through his smile, the way he talked and everything else.
My car broke down. Can you help me fix it?
Right. You know that woman ain't fixing no damn.
Come on, man.
But it's the truth. It's the man. I mean, think of the ones that y'all all named and how did, except for when they maybe shot from across the street, like
of course.
The Washington sniper.
Yeah.
These serial killers, there's just something charming about them that attracts their victim to them.
That's the thing about Dahmer, it was like he kept saying this thing where it was like his whole mindset was basically just like nobody will ever love me, so I have to like drug and rape these people. Yeah. But he was getting dudes.
It's almost a self-esteem issue.
Big time.
Causes majority of what's
it also gets them to where they not all cases, but in some, that's what gets them caught. Because on his end, where he likes the psychological aspect of it,
I think he still had a semi-conscience.
Well, yeah, they do it once, they get away with it. Now I got to do it again. I got to step up the game. Then it is a game,
right?
If this all makes me feel good, this is my sixth victim.
Becomes that repetition.
Oh my God, I have a sickness.
And like not even if I know if it's a game. Honestly, I think it just becomes It's my day. Like, this is my day now. Like, at this point where it's just like, oh, fuck, I gotta kill another one. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know what to do now.
But what I'm saying is that some of them,
definitely,
eventually get to that part that I have a sickness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nobody can catch me, so I have to catch or stop myself. How do I do that? I left my cell phone at the last scene, or I left my T-shirt, and then when they catch themselves. When his kind of people are able to sit down with him and talk to him, that's.
Well, that's Edmund Kemper. Like, you look at Edmund Kemper. He was the one that was, I don't know if y'all ever got to watch Mindhunter, but
I've seen quite a few.
He was the big one, the guy that he was the co-ed killer, and I think he killed 16 women, something like that. And it all culminated when he finally got to his mom and he cut her head off and fucked her face. I don't know if you got to beep that, but but yeah, like, that's what it all culminated to, because all of his mental issues and like it all stemmed from his mom. Like, his mom, like, literally, like, on a daily basis would just poke her head in his bedroom and just be like, nobody's ever gonna love you, bye honey, going to work, like, type shit. And so he grew up with that on top of, like, his obvious mental issues. He killed his grandparents, like, all of that shit happened. And then, like, he killed his mom, did what he did to her head. And then, like, they even said, like, almost like symbolic, like, she was always bitching at him. He ripped out her vocal cords and tried to throw them down the garbage disposal. And then he said when he hit the garbage disposal, it shot them back up into the sink. And he was like, it was almost like symbolic, like, she would never shut up. Like, I couldn't even get rid of her fucking vocal cords. And then he called the police, like, his friends. He was friends with the police department. He called them up and he was just like, yeah, look, this is what I did. And they were like, shut up. And he was like, no, I'm serious. Like, come pick me up. And they were like, hey, shut up. And he was like, I'm not fucking with y'all. Like, come get me. Like, he had to convince them to come pick him up. And then he did. And then he's now living in prison. He's a model fucking prisoner and does what... And it, like, that's when they start to psychologically break it down. And it's like all the other ones were just a precursor for these were, in his mind, these women that he killed were his mother. And he had to take it out, all of his aggression on somebody. He did. And then finally he would, like, one day it just clicked on and he was like, I'm doing all of this because of my mother. She's the one that needs to go. Does it, turns himself in. Normal guy now. Yeah. And it's like as far as a normal guy can be that killed 16 women, but it's like he ended up becoming the FBI's, like, one of their biggest assets because he broke down he knew his own brain. He broke down everything. It was just, this is why I did what I did. This, you know.
All right, well,
a big one.
Bring us into a close. Mm-hmm. I do have one more question, kind of with a statement. Most of your prolific serial killers or your unsolved cases or all that stem from 20 plus years ago. Most of what is Googleable and things that they haven't been able to figure out. It's stood the test of time. People can't figure it out. What do you think in today's age, 2024? Current contemporary America, what do you think it will take for somebody to get, and by any means am I saying it's okay to gain a stature of someone like a Bundy or a Manson or, but what do you think would tip the scale in a sense of this guy killed X, Y, and Z and now, or even we don't know who it is, but these type of events happen. And what do you think will make something prolific nowadays versus what was prolific then?
I
just think because everything's glorified now.
Yeah, correct. That's what I'm going off of. I think now we're Netflix babies. We all grew up with a great story.
Yeah.
It's got to be a great story. And like whatever that story may be, like I say great, but it obviously it could be horrible.
But it's fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing, but it's like, like what I brought up with the Hinterkaifeck thing, where it's like, you had a family that just ended up all slaughtered.
Yeah.
And then nothing to come of it. And then you have your Bundy, who they ended up finding, killed 15, 16 guys or 12 guys, whatever it was. And, he had this crazy story behind it. I think at this point, to make somebody prolific that would stand the test of time, unfortunately, it would have to be something insane that we've never seen before. Because at this point, it's like, well, you know, in today's day and age, cameras are everywhere. Yeah. Like he said, cell phones are getting popped out every left and right, and everything's circulating on the internet, and something like somebody dies, and attention gets drawn to it multiple states. You know what I'm saying? These aren't people just disappearing, and you know, you never hear from like the whole disappearing thing rarely happens anymore, and if it does, it doesn't last long. So like being prolific has to move with the times. And I think now, like, with us being Netflix babies and us being, like, we love a good story. It's got to be a great story coupled with, unfortunately, great numbers. So hopefully we don't have anybody prolific anytime soon. Hopefully this dies with the Ted Bundys and the everything else. And we don't hear anybody. We don't hear about another murderer.
That's more or less what I was thinking
this right
myself.
Here, the cell phone, the computer. Look at, I'm trying to think, it was, the guy's name was Brian. He was with the girl, they were traveling through the mountains and stuff.
A podcast?
Laundry, Brian Laundry.
That's it.
I'm about to say a podcast first. We're going to get an admission of guilt.
No. What I'm talking about is think of the amount of people that followed that case. I mean, the last, you seen her where they're stopped by the police and they're talking to him.
Yeah.
And then just everybody had their own TikTok version and opinion, and we're going out here to look. That's sensationalizing that one particular case, but that's what I think.
That was crazy.
Yes,
but
I was out of the loop, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy.
You know what fucked that case up? When Dog the Bounty Hunter said he was going to get.
Yeah, now it's a fucking cartoon.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, we're done.
That's what fucked that whole thing up.
But you know, it's gonna take, and again, just my opinion. I'm no expert on it. A lot of these serial killers were at some point told, "You're nothing. You're a nobody."
Yeah.
So they do this because they know I'm gonna make the news.
I'm somebody now.
So now today, what was WDSU Channel 6 News right here in New Orleans, it's now
national,
TikTok,
worldwide,
media, Facebook, right? You know, some guy in Japan's looking at it going, but so that's what I think it's going to take.
So now, luckily, to like become prolific, like you have to find a way to not be the story of the week,
right?
Because
I want it to last.
Like you know, right, and unfortunately, like some numbers. Actually, maybe fortunately, some numbers have been hit that it's going to be hard to pass. So, if you just pull off a quick school shooting, you're not going down in history, my friend. If you just murdered two or I know this sounds so like cavalier, but it's like you just murdered 2 or 3 people, we're going to forget about you in a couple of days, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's a daily
that's,
thing in New Orleans.
That's actually and everything.
But Edmund Kemper said
2 week attention span. 2 weeks. That's what most of society has. That's why
I'll bite on that.
You know, you'll see like reruns of things, or like how many times have you seen a documentary on 911? Because it lasted at that point. Yeah, people was watching it every day, 24 hours a day for 2 weeks until the next thing happened.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate in thinking
like
this way.
I hate
it's
to say
almost
it.
like we're waiting for the next.
We're waiting for the next big one.
I don't like that I compare the Boston Marathon bombing to 9/11 in a sense where, like, I think most of us were almost desensitized from 9/11 to the point where, like, the Boston Marathon bombing didn't hurt as bad because it wasn't of substantial.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it almost desensitized the general public to, like...
It was horrible. The story was great.
Terrible.
The story was great.
Right.
And that's why I think people hold on to that a lot.
But it's not talked about in comparison to 9/11 as much, even though there was mass casualty.
Well, let me ask you this. And I know we true crime, but on that concept, and I know we get rid of it in, but Oklahoma City bombing.
I was literally looking it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was as horrific as
Timothy McVeigh.
McVeigh. But
Now,
and they just had. I'm going to tell you, there's some. I got to figure out what night it is because every now and then I just happen to catch it. There is it's like a news program that comes on Channel 4, I think it is, and it's a lady that is interviewing the federal agents. Like she 1 week she had on the Waco agents, to how they handled it. The next one was Ruby Ridge, and then the last one that I just seen, and that's why I'm bringing it up, the Oklahoma City bombing. Okay, what happened to that?
That's what I was about to say. It got topped,
right?
And we're talking about it less and less.
That's right. We went from this 20-story building that they took out and they had agents in it and kids in it to this 120-story building. And I mean, it's just the truth. And then, of course, when the marathon bombing, because of the shit that's going on in this world today, everybody's looking for what terrorist group did it. Oh, I bet you that was a Middle Easterner.
It's all political.
Right.
I think everybody at this point either has an abnormally elevated sense of security, or it's the complete opposite end of the spectrum where they feel like everything that happens of that abundance is an agenda for politics.
Correct.
Gun control, something to spark a war.
Children were killed in Sandy Hook, and they were like, gun control.
Right.
And it's like, can we not do this? Like, babies die.
Right. I mean,
can we focus on the babies?
I deep dove that conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And
went nowhere.
Like the lack of police presence at the school, and the guy that was down the street that took all them kids' refuge on his lawn and was telling them it's gonna be okay and shit. It's just people died.
Yeah.
People fucking died. So you can't desensitize that subject. It involves kids. Done deal. Second, why? What is the point of discrediting something that happened?
It's because unfortunately in every situation somebody's trying to make a dollar off of it. Like
that's right.
One of my favorite things, and like I brought up Columbine, one of my favorite things about Columbine was like the Rachel Scott story. It started with her and then it went to somebody else, and it was the girl who said yes. Yeah. And a lot of evangelical Christians tried to take advantage of that during the time of Columbine, where they used that as a religious agenda, where it was like she was the girl who said yes. The gunman looked her in her face, said, "Do you believe in God?" She said, "Yes, I do," and he shot her. That never happened. The girl who did say yes was Valine Schnurr. She got shot, was laying on the ground. Dylan Klebold was reloading his shotgun and asked her, "Do you believe in God?" She said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Why?" And she was like, "I don't know. I was raised that way, and that's just what I believe." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then right before he shot her, something distracted him, and he walked away. She lived. That's not a sexy story.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's
I get it.
It's
almost like society has to. You have to have a
sexy.
one up on something else.
It has to be a movie. It has to be a movie that you can write. And God damn it, they wrote a horrible fucking movie about Rachel Scott, and it was terrible. And I watched it, and it was dog shit. But I think like more than anything, like if you take anything away from this, it's just do your research. Don't believe everything you see. Believe the things that you do see and find, and just be careful out there, man. Like it's a crazy fucking world. Yeah. Protect the babies.
I'm telling you now, any dude that's dressed like a college professor that pulls up next to me in a Chevette, I'm not going anywhere with it. I'm not. I hope not.
This was fun though, man. You have a beautiful house. You have a beautiful family, man. We've been friends all this time. You've never invited me over. So
I have. You just never come. But that's okay.
That's probably true.
Let's
probably very true.
Let's say that we'll do it again.
We'll do it again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, this has been a long time.
Now y'all got to come over on the Hangover at some point.
Y'all brought him. I never get asked.
I didn't.
I wanted to include him in the Disco Biscuit episode because that started with him. Okay. But to be fair, yeah.
Anytime. I enjoy doing this.
This has been an absolute long time coming.
If it educates listeners, and I don't care what the topic is, true crime, when we did politics, I just want people to be educated, and then when we do the actual unsolved things where we've done these cases,
I'd like to bring you in on one of those, honestly,
help.
just to see, because you have such a different view or a varietal view of different possibilities, and you see things for face value as opposed to somebody with an objective, focus on things. So I would like to bring you in to try to get your opinion on a case or two.
I'm always down. You just give me a holler, man.
Always, brother. Always. I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
You want to plug yourself?
Every Monday we drop the Hangover Podcast. It's nothing like this. If you're a frequent Sound of Siren listener, I just want to make sure I didn't fuck your name up. I swear. If you're a frequent Sound of Siren listener, it's nothing like this. We're an entertainment news podcast. We just talk about what happened last week, this week over drinks with friends, and I have my normal co-host with me. Shout out Turtle. Shout out Average Joe. Shout out Nikki P. If you get a chance, just look us up, man. The Hangover Podcast. We're on all major streaming platforms. We're on YouTube. We're somewhat on TikTok. We have a very small presence on TikTok. But again, www.thehangoverpod.com. That's just pod, P-O-D. Check us out. Order some merch. Fuck with us. We're hilarious. Check us out.
I promise you will laugh. Like I said, that occupies my entire Monday. I look forward to it until the time where Turtle fucks it up and it don't come out on Monday.
It's always Turtle's fault.
It's always Turtle's fault. If you take anything from this, you remember it's Turtle's fault.
Yeah, everything, like all the lessons we taught y'all tonight. Just remember it's Turtle's fault.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, this is the Sound of Sirens podcast. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you have any case that you want us to cover, look into, somebody that needs help just getting it out there, please don't hesitate in emailing us at sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com. As always, I am one half of your host, Larry Frederick.
I'm Brian Miller.
And for Scott, a.k.a. Trey from the Hangover Podcast.
Walter White.
Yeah, y'all have a good night. We will see y'all next week.